I'm here with Nick Gillespie of Reason TV. Reason's covered the ever-expanding nanny state for years. Why do you call it the nanny state?
We call it the nanny state because whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or a conservative, if you're a politician, you pass all kinds of laws telling us what we can eat, how we can paint our houses, what we can smoke or where we can smoke, whether we can ride a bicycle without a helmet, all sorts of things. They're treating us like children. They're treating us like we are,
It's for our safety.
It might be for their safety, but there's, safety. Let's say here, safety second, freedom first.
Okay. They do like to ban things. They pass new bans on smoking, on trans fat, on baggy pants. So many things someone wants to ban. What the audience here knows, and what most of you didn't know until now, is that Nick and I have been getting pedicures. A pedicure from fish. These little fish nibble on your feet. They eat off the bad parts. This is how some people have gotten pedicures for hundreds of years, and fish pedicures are now popular in Asia. And today, some entrepreneurs have brought this to America. So why do they want to ban this? Well, our next guest will tell us, because he wants to ban it. Jeffrey Klein is a state legislator from New York. Actually, today he's in San Juan for a conference. He says fish pedicures are dirty, dangerous, and mean to the fish. So, Jeffrey, dirty, dangerous, why?
Well, John, let me just say, first of all, I'm a big fan of Ayn Rand, and I don't think you can equate a sanitary condition, in other words, legislating sanitary conditions where you would be considered a looter or a moocher. This is an important health issue. People can get very, very sick. Presently in New York State, the nail and hair industry is very heavily regulated.
Has anybody gotten sick anywhere?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there was a podiatrist, Dr. Robert Spaulding, who wrote a book that said that the practice of fish pedicures should be banned because you can't sterilize a fish between use.
Well, I guess it would kill the fish to sterilize them, but
exactly.
We could find no evidence of anybody getting an infection or having any problem. Paula Abdul lost a fingernail from a regular manicure. Should we ban all manicures?
Like I said, this is a very heavily regulated industry. This is something that's, I think, needs to be banned because it goes against the entire practice of being able to prevent cross-contamination through adequate sterilization of equipment.
But you have no evidence that anybody's died, anything's happened to anybody?
There was a lot of complaints in the states that actually had fish pedicures before they banned it. People actually were able... People got staph infections and other things.
You know, I'm having it done now. Feels good. I'm willing to take the risk. Isn't it up to me? Aren't you just a busybody taking away other people's freedom?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll expect more regulations from you. Thank you, Jeff. Bigger rules. Smoking, passive smoke.
Passive
people
smoke,
like it.
Yeah, and this is also one of the things that, I like it too. I'm not a smoker. I never was a smoker. I benefit from smoking bans. However, people who own businesses or people who decide to work at businesses should be able to make the choice to say, I want to do it this way or that way, as long as people know the risks. And this is part of the nanny state. What is strange is we are at a point in history where people are wealthier, relatively speaking. They're more educated. They're more in charge of their life across more different dimensions.
And living longer.
That's right. And now we're having government come in and people like New York State legislatures who cannot balance the budget, who are billions of dollars in debt, and are telling us, leave the little fish alone. This is wrong. This is wrong. It's not their business, and it shouldn't be their business to regulate other businesses, especially now.
I would add to the smoking ban, it's the dictatorship of the majority. I like it. I don't smoke, but can't the smokers have some bars? And you were really wimps, you smokers. You just rolled over. But That's how it works.
You know, but again, you know, and you can start small. I mean, if they're banning fish pedicures with little guppies or carps here, I got a feeling that the bikini lines with the piranha are not coming anytime soon. But this is part of the problem with the nanny state and with the prohibitionist mindset anyway. If consenting adults and informed adults who take responsibility for their lives and live with the responsibility of their actions, which is how we should live, want to do something, it's going to happen. You can ban something, and if people want it, it's going to create a black market, which creates far more problems, and it's much harder to regulate through the courts or through any other kind of contractual obligation.
Well, I think people should wear helmets when they're riding bicycles or motorcycles.
Nick Gillespie of Reason Magazine, what about that? You don't wear the motorcycle helmet, your head cracks open like a watermelon, and everybody else has to pay for that, and you're dead.
John, you've zeroed in on one of the problems of the nanny state, which is that if we're going to say we're going to pay for everything bad that ever happens to anybody because of their own choices, then you have a claim to say, well, you shouldn't even be riding motorcycles then, because the fact is that if you're riding a motorcycle, you're more likely to be in an accident. The key, if you believe in freedom, if you believe in individual liberty, and you believe in choice and responsibility, and these things go together, then you have to say, let's give people more choices, but also more responsibility. And I think it should be up to the individual to decide, do I want to ride a motorcycle in the first place? Do I want to wear a helmet or not? Various states have different regimes for that type of thing. Anything that multiplies an individual's choice is generally a good thing, as long as you're not sticking other people with the bill for your own decisions.
Well, but what about that? What about the greater good? What if you don't have insurance and you get an infection from this fish pedicure, or you ride that motorcycle and everybody else has to pay for you?
Here, if I get an infection from the fish pedicure, the person who's going to pay is the businessman, because nobody goes in and says, give me that infection. I would really like that as part of the pedicure package, right? So, you know, and which is different than other things. And there's no question that there's a huge role in American life in capitalist societies for charity. All of the philanthropies came out of the wealth that was generated by capitalism. Poor people will not go starving, and they won't go begging for medical attention in a truly free society. These laws don't actually get to the point of, like, how do you actually control people's behavior? A lot of laws, like seatbelt laws, which makes sense. I always wear a seatbelt when I drive because it makes you a lot safer. You're much more likely to survive a crash.
Well, let me just stop you on that. Seatbelt law doesn't make you wear a seatbelt.
That's right.
No,
exactly. The information of people making informed choices is what really dictates this thing. But what I was going to say is that with a lot of these laws that are put in there for our own good, they end up taking on different kind of tenors when you look at the way that they're practiced. So when seatbelt laws went from being what was called a secondary enforcement law, where if you got pulled over for something else and you weren't wearing a seatbelt, you could get an extra ticket for not wearing the seatbelt. Now virtually every state has them as a primary enforcement. So if a cop, you're driving by and a cop says, oh, I think you weren't wearing a seatbelt, they can pull you over. Or you're texting, or you're eating, or you're distracted driving. These types of rules inevitably end up affecting people who drive older cars, poorer people, minorities. They always get pulled over more. So the nanny state, even if you take its intentions as pure as the driven snow, a lot of the times the way that they play out is that they end up policing segments of the population who are already under all sorts of duress. This is certainly true with trans fat bans, which are always, they're always targeted, the way that the laws are written, to fast food places and to restaurants where relatively poor people, relatively powerless people eat. They don't go after Mario Batali, they don't go after Bobby Flay, they go after Arby's, and they go after, you know, an empanada stand.
They are another invitation for the police to come into your life.
It's one more pretext for the state, and the police are the agent of the state. You don't need to be paranoid about this, but there is no question. We live in this bifurcated world where on a certain level we have more control over how we live our lives, what kinds of books we read, what kinds of music we listen to, how we can express ourselves. And then you have, on the other hand, more and more centralized political power of all sorts trying to control our speech, control our thoughts, control our lives. And we always need to be struggling against that if we want to stay free. And I think we do, because freedom is the engine of progress. It's the engine of living a full life.
It's